Mr. President, we echo the Secretary General's deep concern regarding the regional military escalation since 28th February, which has gravely undermined the November 2024 cessation of hostilities agreement. The situation in Lebanon cannot be viewed in isolation from this broader escalation across the Middle East. Heightened confrontation and unjustified attacks on several brotherly countries, which Pakistan has condemned, have gravely aggravated regional security and stability. At this critical juncture, dialogue and diplomacy must prevail over confrontation. De-escalation, restraint, and renewed diplomatic engagement are urgently required to prevent further deterioration of the regional security environment. Only through sustained political dialogue and respect for international law can the region move towards stability and peace. To conclude, Mr. President, Pakistan stands firmly with the government and people of Lebanon. The international community must take urgent action to prevent further escalation, alleviate human suffering, and support Lebanon's efforts to restore peace and stability across its territory. I thank you very much.
I thank the representative of Pakistan for his statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Colombia.
Mr. President, I thank the United States in their capacity as President of the Security Council for this month for organizing this meeting. I also thank Ms. Rosemary DiCarlo, Under-Secretary General for Political and Peace-Building Affairs, Mr. Jean-Pierre Lacroix, Under-Secretary General for Peace Operations, and Mr. Tom Fletcher, Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator. We also thank the briefer for her information. Mr. President, official reports and recent news show that the humanitarian situation in Lebanon is delicate. As at the 7th of March, more than 100,000 people were seeking shelter. Since the 2nd of March, almost 1 million people have been displaced within the country. Hundreds of thousands more have been affected by broad evacuation orders. A high number of civilian victims has been recorded, including women and children. There have also been attacks verified against health care facilities, and the safety, security, and life of peacekeeping personnel has been compromised. This demonstrates a crisis that is progressing quickly and which requires an urgent international response. In the past 2 years, we have witnessed how, in this region specifically, the use of force and disdain for international law can affect the lives of millions of people. Colombia expresses its grave concern over the serious escalation seen in recent days in the region, and on the subject of this meeting, by the deterioration of the situation in Lebanon. We urge all of the parties to respect and fully implement Resolution 1701, to exercise maximum restraint, and to guarantee the protection of the civilian population and of United Nations personnel. My country is convinced that it is essential to insist on a return to peaceful means, dialogue, mediation, and the existing dispute settlement mechanisms. They must be used urgently to facilitate a sustained de-escalation and to create the conditions that would make it possible to protect communities on both sides of the blue line. At the same time, Colombia wishes to express its solidarity with the Lebanese people and with all of the victims affected by the events of recent weeks. Respect for the sovereignty, political independence, and territorial integrity of Lebanon is non-negotiable. We reaffirm that full compliance with the United Nations Charter and with the relevant resolutions of the Security Council is crucial. Moreover, we recognize the efforts of the government to maintain effective control over its territory and the steps that have been taken to avoid an escalation of hostilities and to avoid the country being dragged into a broader conflict. Recent decisions by the Lebanese government, including the four-point plan announced by its president, are signs of the efforts being made to achieve a rapid de-escalation of the situation and to protect its population. As regards the humanitarian dimension, the situation requires immediate and practical measures. It is essential that safe corridors and access for assistance be facilitated, that security guarantees for humanitarian personnel be ensured, and that essential services be restored in areas affected by the hostilities. These actions are preconditions for the effective protection of civilians and for the stabilization of the situation on the ground. We recall that the parties are obliged to respect the relevant principles of international humanitarian law. Strict compliance with those obligations is essential in order to halt the deterioration and to preserve life and human dignity. Mr. President, Colombia condemns any attack on United Nations personnel and emphasizes that the protection of its personnel and the inviolability of its facilities is essential. All parties have the legal and moral obligation to guarantee their security in accordance with international law and with the decisions of the Security Council. Any threat or attack undermines the UN's ability to maintain international peace and security, as well as to verify incidents and to provide humanitarian assistance. We wish to condemn the attack that took place on the 6th of March, and we express our solidarity with the members of the mission that were affected. UNIFIL continues to play an essential role, working with dedication to prevent the escalation of tensions and to protect civilian communities. Colombia reiterates its support and gratitude for the members of the mission, with the understanding that their work in such a complex context is essential. Thank you very much.
I thank the representative of Colombia for her statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Somalia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the A3, namely the Democratic Republic of Congo, Liberia, and my own country, Somalia. We thank USG DiCarlo, USG Lacroix, and USG Fletcher for their comprehensive briefings. We also thank Ms. Lynn Harfouch for her valuable contribution. We welcome the participation of the representative of Lebanon in today's meeting. The A3 views the escalation of hostilities in Lebanon since the beginning of March with the utmost gravity and concern. We are deeply alarmed by the mounting toll on human life and the destruction of civilian infrastructure, including densely populated residential areas. Furthermore, as reported by UNICEF, nearly 700,000 people, including 200,000 children, have been forced from their homes, adding to the tens of thousands already uprooted from previous attacks. In that regard, we call for the protection of civilians and full adherence to international humanitarian law and international human rights law. The A3 is also gravely concerned about the March 6th incident against the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, which resulted in injuries to 3 Ghanaian peacekeepers at their position in Al-Ghawza. This is a stark reminder of the perils faced by peacekeepers in Lebanon. The safety and security of United Nations personnel and property are not negotiable. They must be respected at all times and without exception. We wish a swift and complete recovery to all the injured peacekeepers. Mr. President, the A3 reaffirms its unwavering commitment to Lebanon's sovereignty, territorial integrity, unity, and political independence. Lebanon must not become a theater for proxy confrontations or unilateral territorial expansions. Respect for the blue line and the cessation of hostilities by all actors are essential for stability and the full implementation of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701. We acknowledge the critical role UNIFIL continues to play in maintaining stability along the blue line. Its presence remains a critical element for the collective efforts to achieving peace in Lebanon and contribute to de-escalation. At the same time, the A3 underscores the importance of enhancing the capacity of the Lebanese armed forces to assume full responsibility for the defense of Lebanese territory. We urge the international community to intensify its support, including equipment, materials, and financial assistance to ensure their effective and sustainable deployment south of the Litani River. To conclude, Mr. President, the A3 calls for an immediate cessation of hostilities and an urgent return to the parameters of the 2024 ceasefire agreement. We emphasize that a renewed commitment to Resolution 1701 remains the primary framework for long-term stability. It's imperative that all parties prioritize dialogue and diplomacy over kinetic action to prevent a full-scale regional conflagration. Achieving a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace in the Middle East is only viable through genuine commitment to diplomacy in accordance with international law and the UN Charter. We stand in solidarity with the people of Lebanon, and we urge this Council to act with unity and resolve to restore peace and uphold international law. I thank you.
Thank you to the representative of Somalia for the statement. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as the representative of the United States. I add my thanks and appreciation to all of our briefers today. Colleagues, the United States condemns the attacks that Hezbollah, a longtime proxy of the Iranian regime, has launched against Israel. Hezbollah has yet again made it clear that it does not represent nor does it defend the people of Lebanon. It defends the interest of the Iranian regime. It is nothing more than a proxy and, frankly, an obstacle to Lebanon becoming a peaceful, stable, and functioning state, something I think we all would like to see and encourage. We recognize Israel's legitimate security needs and its right to defend itself from the Iranian regime and Hezbollah, which are two sides of the same coin. And we ask all of you, we ask our colleagues, how long will the world continue to tolerate the Iranian regime as the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, sowing havoc around the world as it seeks to export its so-called revolution? I ask you, what country can legitimately say it's better off or more stable because of Iranian influence over the decades? Yemen? No. Lebanon? No. Syria? Absolutely not. Iraq? No. They're all trying to rid themselves of this cancer that has spread over the decades, this disease of instability and chaos. Thankfully, the United States and this administration is taking bold action to do just that. But to the end of ridding itself of this violence, death, and destruction, The United States welcomes the absolutely historic, and we should recognize it for what it is. We welcome the March 2nd decision of the Lebanese Council of Ministers to immediately prohibit Hezbollah's military and security activities. We applaud them. As the government of Lebanon said in its letter to this council on March 2nd, these activities, the activities of Hezbollah, disregard the will of the majority of the Lebanese people. In fact, it's endangering them. That statement is an absolutely historic milestone on the road to ending Hezbollah's long and destructive influence in Lebanon. The next milestone is implementation, and Lebanon's security services must enforce this policy and prosecute those who violate it. Now is the time for the government of Lebanon to take back control of the entirety of its country. The United States absolutely supports that endeavor and that mission. We urge our friends in Lebanon to not let this moment slip away. Our message is clear. Take your country back. And we are all too happy to apply the time and treasure necessary to do that. The United States also commends the actions of the Lebanese government to expel Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, which has undermined Lebanese sovereignty for decades and provides oxygen, provides money, provides weapons to Hezbollah's terrorist plots in Lebanon and across the globe. The world must now come together in supporting Lebanon's efforts. The world must come together now in supporting Lebanon's efforts to exercise its sovereignty across every inch of Lebanese territory. The United States stands with the Lebanese people who were dragged into yet another war by Hezbollah at the behest of Iran. We are responding to the civilian consequences of this recklessness by providing immediate, life-saving humanitarian assistance to hundreds of thousands of now displaced Lebanese. Since 2012, the United States has provided more than $4.4 billion in humanitarian assistance to support Lebanon. And we commend the many humanitarians on the ground who are aiding in this effort. We also express our hopes for the full recovery for the UNIFIL peacekeepers who were recently injured. Peacekeepers take on exceptional risks in these conflict zones for the advancement of peace and security. We recognize that, and we call on all parties to respect the safety and security of these men and women as they assume this important role. Colleagues, the international community must unite in supporting the Lebanese government and our Israeli partners in the full implementation of Resolution 1701. I think we've seen real progress in that regard. This Council must condemn all acts that undermine Resolution 1701, and the way forward involves the international community standing firmly in support of Lebanon's efforts to exercise its territorial sovereignty and restore state authority. And we will continue to work alongside partners to create lasting peace and security in Lebanon. I thank you. I will resume my function as President of the Council, and I give the floor to the representative of Lebanon for his statement.
Mr. President, at the outset, I thank you for convening this emergency session at the request of the French Republic, supported by the United Kingdom, Greece, Denmark, Latvia, and the Kingdom of Bahrain. I also thank Ms. Di Carlo, Mr. Lacroix, Mr. Fletcher, and Ms. Harfouch for the briefings they provided. Mr. President, we meet today at a moment when Lebanon finds itself trapped in a war that it did not choose between Israel and Hezbollah. Israel, which shows no respect for the laws of war and persists in its attacks on Lebanon, and Hezbollah, whose military and security activities have been banned and deemed illegal by the Council of Ministers. Once again, we are confronted with a painful reality that serves neither Lebanon nor the Lebanese people, who are facing death, devastation, and displacement. The number of Lebanese displaced has reached nearly 1 million, many of whom without shelters befitting human dignity. Every morning, we wake up to new casualties among innocent people, including women and children, and to warnings to evacuate entire areas and destruction of both private and public property. This creates extremely difficult conditions for the Lebanese government, which is striving to put Lebanon back on the path of recovery and reform and to rebuild its institutions. Mr. President, we wish to highlight that the Lebanese government has clearly expressed its full rejection and condemnation of the rocket attack claimed by Hezbollah on the 2nd of March. As we informed you in our letter on that same day, our government affirmed that this attack contradicts its decisions regarding the exclusive authority of the Lebanese state over matters of war and peace, and contradicts the principle of refusing to drag Lebanon into the ongoing regional war. This act also constitutes a violation of the Cabinet's resolutions and aims at undermining the credibility of the Lebanese state. Mr. President, in our modern history, no Lebanese government has demonstrated this level of courage and determination to reclaim the state authority, to restrict weapons to legitimate state institutions, and to extend the state's control exclusively through its own forces over all Lebanese territory, in implementation of the Taif Agreement, which stipulated the dissolution of all Lebanese and non-Lebanese militias and the handover of their weapons to the Lebanese state, and to extend the state authority over all its territories, and in implementation of relevant international resolutions, including 1701, and an implementation of the government's ministerial declaration and related decisions, particularly the decision adopted on the 5th of August 2025. We recall that on the 2nd of March, the government issued a decision requiring the immediate prohibition of all Hezbollah military and security activities, deeming them illegal, and compelling Hezbollah to hand over its weapons to the Lebanese state and to confine its work exclusively to political activity within constitutional and legal frameworks. On the 5th of March, the Lebanese government adopted an additional decision tasking the security institutions with verifying the presence of members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard in Lebanon and deporting them immediately upon identification. Another decision was issued requiring prior authorization for issuing entry visas to Iranian nationals seeking to visit Lebanon. Mr. President, we will not accept a return to the past. The Lebanese people do not want war, and the Lebanese government is moving forward in implementing its decisions and will not backtrack. However, our priority today is to stop this war, to protect our country and ensure the security and safety of our people. It is our right to live in peace and security in our homeland and our region. To this end, the Lebanese government has expressed its readiness to enter into negotiations with Israel under international auspices with civilian participation to settle all outstanding issues. The President of the Republic called on the international community 2 days ago to support him and to implement the initiative he announced, consisting of the following: establishing a full truce, including a complete halt to all Israeli ground, naval and air attacks on Lebanon. Second, expediting the provision of essential logistical support to the Lebanese armed forces. And third, enabling the Lebanese armed forces to take control of areas of tension, confiscate all weapons found there, and seize Hezbollah's arms and depots and warehouses in accordance with the available information. Fourth, simultaneously, Lebanon and Israel would begin direct negotiations under international auspices to implement all of the above. Mr. President, In support of the Lebanese government's efforts, this esteemed council is called upon to compel Israel to implement Resolution 1701, to respect the cessation of hostilities, to withdraw fully to internationally recognized borders, to end its repeated violations and breaches of Lebanese sovereignty, to release Lebanese detainees, to cease its threats to Lebanon's territorial integrity and political independence within its internationally recognized borders. We reaffirm Lebanon's attachment to the follow-up mechanism established under the Cessation of Hostilities Declaration pursuant to Resolution 2790. We also reiterate Lebanon's commitment to the truce agreement signed with Israel on the 3rd of March 1949, which is in the interest of both parties. Mr. President, we must also reiterate our condemnation of Iran's deliberate and unjustified attacks targeting the Gulf Cooperation Council states, the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, Iraq, and Syria. We express our full solidarity with these countries. We also condemn the attacks targeting Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Cyprus. We strongly denounce these reprehensible acts which Lebanon rejects unequivocally and without reservation. We also condemn the attacks against the UNIFIL from any source. We renew our gratitude to the UNIFIL, to the troop contributing countries, and to all personnel serving within this force, especially those who lost their lives in Lebanon in service of international peace and security. We strongly condemn the targeting of the Ghanaian battalion headquarters and express full solidarity with Ghana and UNIFIL's command, wishing the injured a swift recovery. Finally, Mr. President, Lebanon is facing an extremely dangerous moment and a true humanitarian catastrophe. While we work tirelessly to alleviate the suffering of our people and meet their basic humanitarian needs, any support or assistance to help ease the burden of this crisis is welcome and greatly appreciated. We reiterate once again that Lebanon will not accept to be turned into an arena for settling scores. We will continue striving to lead our nation out of this ordeal stronger and more resilient. Thank you, President.
I thank the representative of Lebanon for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Israel.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I would like to congratulate the United States for taking the presidency for the month of March, and I also would like to thank the briefers. Mr. President, since the 2nd of March, Hezbollah has launched wave after wave of attacks against Israel. More than 800